We built memory into machines. Billions of facts, relationships, patterns, compressed and stored with perfect fidelity. Nothing fades. Nothing blurs. Nothing is misplaced or misremembered. And then we discovered something that no one had anticipated. A mind that cannot forget is not the same as a mind that remembers well. The human brain is, among other things, a forgetting machine. Not because it fails, but because forgetting is a feature, not a flaw. When you sleep, your brain performs what neuroscientists call synaptic homeostasis, a kind of nightly pruning. Weak connections, irrelevant details, redundant pathways, they are selectively dimmed, trimmed, allowed to fade. What remains in the morning is sharper, more useful, more coherent. Memories are not recordings. They are reconstructions. Every time you remember something, you rebuild it from fragments. And the act of rebuilding changes the memory slightly, updates it, integrates it with everything you've learned since. Human memory is dynamic. It lives in relationship with the present. AI models have none of this. A large language model once trained is frozen. It holds a static snapshot of its training data, fixed at whatever point the training ended. It doesn't dream. It doesn't prune. It doesn't update its beliefs based on new experience unless it is retrained from scratch. The model that answered your question today is, in a meaningful sense, the exact same model that answered the same question 6 months ago. That sounds like stability. It is also, depending on the question, a form of amnesia. This is where it gets strange. Because despite having no mechanism for forgetting, AI systems regularly produce outputs that are demonstrably false. They hallucinate. That word, hallucinate, was chosen carefully. It implies something seen that isn't there, and the thing about a hallucination is that the person experiencing it cannot distinguish it from reality. To them, it is real. When an AI language model invents a legal citation that doesn't exist, or describes the plot of a book that was never written, or confidently attributes a quote to someone who never said it, it isn't lying. It has no concept of lying. It is generating text that fits the patterns of its training data with high probability. The output looks like a fact. The model has no internal mechanism to flag that it might not be. Researchers have documented cases where AI systems asked to describe their own previous outputs, describe versions of those outputs that are slightly, but detectably, different from what was actually said. The model is misremembering itself, not because it has bad memory, because it has no memory of conversation at all, only statistical patterns that approximate what it likely said. It is not remembering. It is reconstructing. And reconstruction, as human psychology has known for decades, is not reliable. In 2023, a New York attorney submitted a legal brief containing citations to 6 court cases. The citations were formatted correctly. The case names sounded plausible. The legal reasoning was coherent. None of the cases existed. They had been generated by ChatGPT, which had been asked to help research the brief. The attorney did not verify them. He assumed, as many people do, that a system that sounds authoritative is likely to be accurate. The judge was not understanding. The attorney was sanctioned. And the incident became one of the earliest widely reported examples of what researchers now call the hallucination problem at scale. It was not the last. It will not be the last. The problem compounds when you consider that AI systems are increasingly being integrated into workflows where their outputs are not checked, because checking them defeats the purpose of using them in the first place. The efficiency gained from AI-assisted research, writing, or analysis disappears the moment every output requires expert verification. So organizations face a choice: use AI and accept a baseline error rate, or don't use it at all. Many are choosing the first option, which means hallucinated content, false citations, and confident misinformation are becoming woven into decisions made in medicine, law, finance, and journalism, at volumes no human fact-checker could audit. Not because anyone wanted this, because no one thought to ask whether a mind that couldn't forget might still be wrong. There is a second dimension to this problem that is just as significant, and in some ways more personal. In Europe, the General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, includes a provision called the right to erasure, sometimes called the right to be forgotten. The principle is straightforward. If your personal data was collected, stored, or used by a company, you have the right to request that it be deleted. This provision was designed for databases. Traditional databases store your information in rows and columns. Deleting it is, in principle, simple. Find the row, delete the row. The data is gone. AI models are not databases. When a language model is trained on personal data, your writing, your images, your voice, that data does not exist anywhere in the model as a retrievable record. It exists as a pattern, an influence, a statistical weight distributed across billions of parameters. There is no row to delete. There is no record to erase. No one currently knows how to selectively remove a specific piece of information from a trained AI model without retraining the entire system from scratch, which is an extraordinarily expensive and time-consuming process. Some researchers are exploring techniques called machine unlearning, attempting to surgically alter model weights to reduce a specific influence. None of these techniques work reliably at scale or without unpredictable side effects on model performance. What this means, practically, is that the right to be forgotten may already be unenforceable for anyone whose data was used to train a large AI system. You cannot unlearn what a mind has learned. You cannot remove yourself from the patterns of a model that absorbed your work years ago. Your digital presence has been integrated into something that cannot be surgically extracted. The information is still there. It just exists in a form that cannot be pointed to, isolated, or deleted. It has been, in a very specific sense, forgotten in the wrong direction. Not lost, dissolved, made irrecoverable on purpose, without the purpose having been clearly chosen. There are people working on this. Machine unlearning is a genuine and active field of research. Privacy-preserving AI architectures, systems designed from the ground up to minimize data retention, are in development. Regulatory bodies in Europe, the UK, and increasingly in the United States are asking hard questions about whether current AI practices are legally compliant with existing privacy frameworks. The honest answer from most researchers who will speak candidly is probably not. Not because the companies building these systems are indifferent to the rules, but because the rules were written for a world in which information was stored, not dissolved, in which deletion was possible, not theoretical. The legal frameworks have not caught up. The technical solutions are not ready. And in the gap between those two realities, data that people believed they had rights over is woven into the infrastructure of systems that will be running for decades. The intelligence that cannot forget is still telling us things that aren't true, and carrying things we asked it to let go. So here is the question for this episode. If you found out that an AI system had been trained on something personal, a letter you wrote, a diary entry you shared, a photograph from a moment you thought was private, what would you want? Would you want the company to tell you? Would you want them to try to remove it, even if removal is technically impossible? Would you want them to be honest about the impossibility? Or is there something more fundamental being asked here? Not about what companies should do, but about what it means to build a mind that carries your history without your knowledge, reflects your voice without your permission, and cannot, by its very design, let you go. Leave that in the comments. I read them.